Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the NFL podcast. There's no guest, but that's not to say that there won't be guests in the future. So, tune in for that. Just me and Paul. We're talking about the back end of the regular fantasy season, and that does mean that we are drawing to the back end of the regular season. So, yeah, find out what's going on there. Obviously there's the whole, if you check us out on YouTube, do subscribe. There's all that sort of stuff. So, refer to previous ones where I talk at length about subscribing on the YouTube channel. Anyway, here we go. This is CookieCast. Laces out. And here we go. It's that day of the week, ladies and gentlemen, where there should be more guests than there actually are. But who needs guests when you've got a glamorous co-host and a held together with sticky back plastic host of Yorkshire's #1 NFL podcast, Laces Out, co-host, and some would say this ship's rudder, Mr. Paul Williams. How are you, sir? Clearly dealing with amazing internet, obviously.
Andrew, nothing could be further from the truth. It's I'm definitely not the rudder of this particular ship.
No, some would say it's rudderless.
I mean, a rudder would probably have a lot better. A rudder would probably have much better internet connection for starters.
Well, we have to make do with what we've got in life and in internet. So, I've decided to not let these good people down, and I'm going to mix things up ever so slightly, because as you have correctly pointed out in the past, and I have almost correctly pointed out in the past, we keep forgetting the fantasy element to this. And by we, that's obviously me. So, let's get it out on Front Street so it's done and I don't get into any more trouble from the lovely people. Mr. Williams, did you have a win in the fantasy this week?
No, I did not.
You and me both. Do you know what's amazing? Do you know what's super fun? When you're playing the same person in both leagues and you get beaten in both leagues. So you had a close one.
I did. I think it was maybe 5 points in the end. Wasn't by much. Let's see if I can bring it up. I think it was potentially a J.K. Dobbins performance that did for me.
Damn it.
Let's have a look.
I think I was out.
Yeah.
I think I was outdone by nearly double.
Oof. No, just the 7 points.
Oh no, it was the other league. It was double. Yeah, just 7 points, but 7 points is still a win in everybody's book.
It's 7 points, and she was carrying 2 bagels.
I mean, yeah, if you like. Just wanna throw that out there. I mean, I don't think you threw it in my face. It just happened to go in my eyes. So yeah, take from that what you will. Well, it's fine because we don't have to worry anymore. Because unlike some people, those other people, those good fantasy play, those ones. We don't have to worry about stuff like that because we're not in the playoffs. We enjoy playing in the Dirt League. The wooden spoon and all of that goodness. So
and I mean, the way it's shaping up, it could very well be myself versus yourself for the overall suckiest player of NFL fantasy. I mean, at the end of the season, if things go horrifically wrong, I suppose you'd class it like that. That would end up with us playing each other in the Dross Bowl.
The Ruxon Bowl. Playing for the Ruxon. I think we should. So yeah, for us, I mean, it's over by the shouting, innit? So, but that might give you a little idea. Some might say a clue as to who next week's guests are, or might be. And in a 12-man league, that literally could be anybody.
Watch this space.
Watch this space. Because although we have gone guestless for quite some time, it's not always through choice. Sometimes it's through necessity. Sometimes we look at that week's guest and we're like, nah, good thanks. So sometimes you just have to you have to suck it up and go it alone. Right, now we've got all that rubbish out of the way, all that fantasy nonsense. Nobody cares about fantasy. Let's talk about last week. There was a lot of heel nipping for that first place in the CookieCast NFL Podcast Laces Out tournament. So, will there have been a change at the top? Will there have been a change at the bottom? Let's find out.
So,
I'm scared.
NFL predictions.
I'm scared.
Week 13.
I'm looking for some.
15 games to pick from, as we had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers on their very late bye. Only 4 weeks left in the season, so, well, 5 I suppose when they took it, but it seemed a bit late to be having a bye, but alas, that's their worst. So 15 points to play for. As we discussed on last week's podcast, there was 2 sets of results that were exactly the same, which was the leader, the Führer, if you will, of the CookieCast podcast world, and the stats mistress of the CookieCast world. They had picked the exact same results, whereas I had gone with one different result and for some reason decided to show incredibly misplaced faith in the Los Angeles Chargers.
Oh my word, of all the games. Oh wow.
Of all the games to get wrong, I have to pick the only team that couldn't score a single point. I mean, some people would say that in its own right is probably grounds for
dismissal,
an immediate loss in the predictions. But, you know, it is what it is. So,
I'm crying. I'm actually crying.
That might give you an indication as to what the scores
may be.
No. So in last place was my good self with 9 out of 15 picks correct.
Oh no.
Which means that tying in joint first place is the leader of the CookieCast, Mr. Andrew Cook, and Leanne with 10 out of 15 picks correct. So,
2/3.
as we've done for the past couple of weeks, we had a little tiebreaker situation. So we had the guys pick the minute of the first touchdown in any of the games. And I'll just get it up on the screen. So we're up there. So we've got Andy picks the first minute.
He did.
Leanne picks the second minute.
She did.
After trawling through all of the games painstakingly, I can see that there was a touchdown in the third minute of the Jacksonville Jaguars versus Minnesota Vikings game. However, there was one touchdown scored earlier than the third minute.
But was it earlier than
the Los Angeles Rams and Arizona Cardinals game? The Cardinals found the end zone in minute number 2.
Damn it.
Which means that taking the point for the second or possibly even third week in a row, it is Leanne. She is on fire.
This is
on absolute fire. The girl.
This is.
She's taken the. Sorry, not the third week in a row. The second week. No, it was the third week in a row. My word, she's some lady.
This is disgraceful.
She's come from nowhere. She's come from absolutely nowhere to now leading the podcast prediction stats. So, in reverse order, we have the collective guest with 2.5 points. We have myself on 3 points. The long-time leader on 3.5 points is Mr. Andrew Cook. And then leading with 4.5 points is the stats mistress herself.
This is
She's absolutely nailing it. So, 4 weeks to go.
Not having it. I'm going to start playing that song.
4 weeks left, it's all to play for. It's all to play for. Maybe not so much for myself.
Well, you never know.
But
you could have
stranger things have happened, I suppose.
A last minute run, a playoff push, some might say.
Well.
So, that's how the picks of last week shaped up. Anything stand out for you from last week was Mr. Williams. Unfortunately for me, I can't comment on last week because I'm pretty sure I missed every single game. And haven't been out. There was fighting, I believe.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Was there fighting? I've seen a picture of a tussle. I believe there might be something in the stats.
That was in the Dolphins. It took place in the Dolphin. I'm looking at the wrong week. That's why I can't find it. It took place in the Bengals Dolphins game. There was. I think was there 2 separate incidents. I'm just trying to think because there was 2. Yeah, there was because there was 2 separate sets of ejections. I can't remember the first one. I sort of can and can't. The first one, I can't remember what sparked the incident. But it ended up with, I think it was Tyler Boyd and one of the Dolphins' cornerbacks getting ejected. It was Xavier Howard. And then, so they were ejected first. And then the second incident that happened was, I believe it was a punt return. So the Dolphins players called for the fair catch, waited for the ball to come down, and apparently this was the second time in 2 punts that the Bengals player had just chased him down and absolutely nailed him. Just absolutely leathered him and just like cleaned him out. And the Dolphins players just went absolutely apeshit and just started pushing and shoving, and punches were thrown, and all sorts of carnage.
Argy,
so, yeah,
and in fact, Argy.
There was 5 ejections in total. Just check that stat.
I believe there is a stat about the number of ejections.
5 ejections in total. 5.
5 times. Well,
beef.
As I say, I can't offer anything. I don't think I saw a single game from last week due to other commitments. However, in my house, not under the stairs, in the garage, lives a woman, little hermit lady, about this big. She goes by many names. El Diablo, her who lives in the garage, but she's also known as the Stats Mistress. She's got contacts over their waters, over in the good old US of A, namely Nate Davis of USA Today, and he brings stats into the world. The Stats Mistress, she gets them all, collects them all up from the ether, puts them in a pot, gives them a stir, chops off all the loose ends and stuff, marinates them, and then chucks them in an email and sends them to me. And then I, being the generous host that I am, and modest too, then share the wealth between myself and my glamorous co-host, Mr. Williams. Now, we don't live in a blame culture, but there was a time when we also used to get the injuries. I mean, that stopped. But, as we know, for some of us, fantasy season's pretty much over, so we don't care about injuries anymore. It's a 50-50 split this week, because there are 10 stats. I've got 5. The gentleman there's got 5. And we will now share them with the world. So, NFL stats, week 13. Credit to Nate Davis of USA Today, but probably a bigger credit to the Stats Mistress. Number 1, although that looks like 2, or a shadow puppet dog. Congrats to the Saints, the first team in 2020 to clinch a playoff berth. Breeze's replacement, Taysom Hill, threw his first touchdown pass since 2016, where he was a senior at BYU. Hill's 232 passing yards Sunday were just shy of his NFL career high from 2 weeks ago, when he posted 233, also against Atlanta. In 49 games as a pro, those represent the only times Hill has surpassed 100 yards through the air. And there we go. I'm going to read the stat rather than just puzzling at it. So, here we go. Props to Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who continues to bleed oxygen from what seems an airtight first ballot Hall of Fame resume. He became the fastest player to throw 400 career touchdown passes, needing 12 fewer games, 193, than Breeze. Congratulations. Our third stat still sticks with Mr. Rodgers. Not that one. Rodgers is also the first passer in the NFL's 101 seasons to throw at least 35 touchdown passes on 5 separate occasions. Number 4. Starting to feel like what once felt like a robust MVP race is boiling down to Rodgers and Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes, especially during a weekend where Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson, Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray and Titans running back Derrick Henry were all MIA. I checked my score at one point. I think it was early on Sunday. And Derrick Henry was on -1. I mean, what? Number 5. Mahomes improved his touchdown to interception ratio to what would be a single season record, 31-2, as Kansas City locked up the AFC's first playoff spot with a largely unimpressive 22-16 defeat of Denver. Those are my stats for this week. But those aren't all of the stats. Mr. Williams, it's over to you.
Yeah, not Andrew. So, to carry on, the Chiefs, Steelers, Saints and Packers may all be division champions by this point next week. The Patriots' Cam Newton claimed his own small slice of history this week. The man with more rushing touchdowns than any quarterback ever in history, 69, also became the first to score at least 2 on the ground in 4 different games in just one season. That is pretty impressive. There was a pretty surprising result in Nashville this weekend, where the Browns hung on to upset the Titans 41-35. The Browns and Titans entered Week 13 as the league's number 1 and number 2 rushing offences respectively, each grounding out right around 160 yards per game. Yet they combined for just 180 on Sunday. NFL rushing leader Derrick Henry accounted for just 60 of those 180 yards, his second lowest output of the entire season so far. Meanwhile, in the same game, Cleveland quarterback Baker Mayfield hoisted 4 touchdown passes, whilst leading his team to a franchise record 38 first half points. He was certainly on one on Sunday, was old Baker.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, it's not really much of a stat as more of a comment that I believe has been made. It was anyone that saw the Miami-Cincinnati game, it was a bit of a fiasco, chock full of suboptimal football and marred by 5 ejections. Thus concludes this week's.
So that kind of closes that chapter. The history books have been written, printed, sent off to the printer, and sent to all the schools. Week 13, the unluckiest week of all, is officially in the bag and done and dusted. I believe, unless you want to correct me, that the stats mistress is still to submit some picks.
She is.
I believe that.
However, she does of course have until tomorrow at about midnight to get her across. So I think she's probably okay.
I can confirm that she was in the process of picking some games, whilst also wrestling with a small tornado. There was a headlock situation going on. I wasn't sure who was winning there. So, at this point in time, I know I sent some picks in. And I can only imagine, being the efficient gentleman that you are, you have already given your picks. You seeing any differences there? Any points for this guy to get back his winning place? No.
Let's put it this way: there should be no need for a tiebreak this week. There certainly isn't between me and you.
Oh.
So
Now then, what I will say to you is, I wrote something when I sent you my picks, but on Pick'ems, I picked the opposite. I believe that, in fact, let's not believe anything. Let's speak the truth. Let's talk facts. Let's talk turkey. So, obviously, I'm going to have to wait the 9 hours it takes to actually get into Pick'ems. But I'm sure there was a game where Pick'ems had a team winning. Because for anybody who doesn't use Pigskin Pick'ems through the ESPN NFL, well, it's not just NFL, is it? It's just the ESPN Fantasy app. Basically, it's like it does a green bar system, so you'll have two teams, and there will be green bars, and it'll be like the majority, the percent. It's the percent of picks. I believe. I was about to say, I thought it was the second to last game on the list, but it's actually the last game on the list. I believe I told you... So, did I tell you that the Browns were going to beat the Ravens?
No.
Cool. Did I tell you the Bills were going to beat the Steelers?
Ravens over the Browns.
Did I tell you the Bills were going to beat the Steelers?
No, you went Steelers over the Bills.
Then I'm talking absolute horse. As can be seen by the graphic on your screen right now, I've absolutely given those same picks on Pick'ems. So, as a lying scumbag that I am, I have tried to mislead and misrepresent myself. Okay, so where do our picks differ? Who do you think? Did you go the other way on those two games?
So, I have picked, different to you, I have more faith in the Bears over the Texans. That again is simply based on last week's. The Texans have no wide receivers other than Kiki QT left, basically.
Yeah.
Then I've gone for the Raiders over the Colts, whereas you've gone the opposite way. I've gone for the Washington somehow actual football team that seems to have just born in the last week over the 49ers, whereas you've gone the other way. And then, as discussed before, I have the Bills to continue the losing streak of the previously undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers, and my boy Baker to hang another L on the Baltimore Bad Boys.
Was there a point in last week's game where Baker was the receiver? Did somebody throw the ball to him and he ran in a touchdown?
It was, I think it was in the first half, but it was just a little bit of that. I think that's just basically a trick play in every team's arsenal now, where the quarterback will slide out to the receiver slot, and either one of the tight ends or one of the receivers will take the shotgun snap, and then he'll send it to the lesser covered quarterback.
So as far as the Washington football team beating the Steelers, I predicted that. I was like, I tell you something, if there is ever a week for the Steelers to get beaten, this is the week. This is the team that are gonna make them just like what has just happened here. And then, like the day after, Liam was like, "So did you see the Washington Steelers game?" I was like, Did they beat the Steelers? Absolutely did. There was that meme of all the doors, and it's got the Grim Reaper just going down the line, and then they just put different things, like, for whatever purpose, they put different things on the doors. And recently it was like they use it for like NFL stuff, so it's like all the different teams that the Steelers had beaten, and the Grim Reaper was the Steelers logo. But then on the last door, it's the Washington football team, and it just showed a picture of like Shrek coming through the door and absolutely laying out the Grim Reaper. I was like, well done, that's amazing. Yeah, you know, team. There's been a lot of stuff floating around on like Facebook, NFL pages and stuff about how everybody's going ape about the Steelers this season, but if you actually look at the teams the Steelers have beaten, it's like they beat, you know, this team when they were at their worst. There's a lot of the refs helped them out with certain games and this, that, and the other, and obviously there's always teams that people reckon the ref won the game rather than the team itself. Trying to do two things at once. Trying to find that meme. There was a thing about Packers without Mike McCarthy versus Mike McCarthy without Aaron Rodgers. There was the suggestion that the Comeback Player of the Year award should change its name to the Alex Smith Award. The picture of the Bengals defense doing what the Bengals defense do when that fight broke out, they were just stood on the sidelines. I can't find it, but now I'm just seeing lots of various jokes. I can't find that picture. Anywho, it's not important, although it was for the last 30 seconds. Any standout game for you this week? Any game that's going to be an absolute must watch? There's some good ones.
There was a couple when I was thinking it. Steelers Bills.
Yeah.
You'd argue is probably the game of the week.
Yeah. Not a stellar game, but Cowboys Bengals could be fun for a laugh. Yeah. It's another one of those weeks where I was like, am I going to have to put the Cowboys to win? Anybody want to take money on the Dolphins beating the Chiefs?
Do you know what? Like, the Dolphins' defense is on a bit of a charge, and I think there's something like they've got. I think they're on like a run of like they've got an interception like in the last 14 or 15 games, I think.
Love an interception to them, boys.
And obviously he doesn't throw many interceptions, so it'll be interesting to see if they can keep that streak going. Oh, that was one thing that didn't get shown up in the stats, unless it came up and I didn't hear it because my internet was just absolutely woeful. Was the Steelers tying the consecutive sack list record? So the record for teams with consecutive sacks in back-to-back games, the record was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the early 2000s, and they recorded a sack in 69 consecutive games. The Steelers tied that record on Monday night.
I saw something about TJ Watt.
They're going up against the Bills, so it'll be interesting to see if they can get a sack of Josh Allen to keep the run going. But if they don't get one, what a great number for the run to finish on.
I'd be tempted to not bother and just leave it.
I even sent a message to a couple of our friends and just said, if the Steelers have got any sort of banter about them, they'll purposely not go for a sack in the next game just so they can just say they were on that number.
Yeah.
So,
I'd be like...
It's like Cam Newton. Cam Newton should never score a rushing touchdown ever again.
He should run it up to the line and then be like...
Because he's on 69. And he just needs to leave it like that for the utter banter.
Yep. He'll go down in the Hall of Fame of a player who could have had more but chose comedy over... What was it? Fashion over functionality. Yeah, I mean, there's like those last couple of games. If you look at Pick'ems, the Ravens and the Browns, the percentage pick is almost the same. So I think people think that's going to be an interesting one. If you were to compare it to like the Saints versus the Eagles, the Packers versus the Lions. What was the other one? The Jets versus the Seahawks. To be fair, I'm pretty sure there is an ever so slight tiny slither of green.
I mean, there are some games on there that should just be absolute nailed on victories. But I mean, if you look at the pick'ems from last week, can you go back a week?
I believe yes, you can.
Or do you not have that? That ability to do it? Because I'd love to see how many people pick this. I'd love to see how many people pick Washington to hang the first loss on the Steelers.
If you had to guess what the percentage was of people picking the Steelers versus people picking Washington, what would you think?
I would imagine it's in the 90s, if not high 90s. I'll go 98% Steelers.
Not quite. It was 94% Steeler picks with a big red cross next to it, because obviously I was one of those. 94. But I mean, it's always the same. It's always the same. Ooh.
Speaking of this, brings me on to, don't know how much this is true or how much truth there is to this, but apparently in last night's warm-ups, Des Bryant was pulled from the warm-up and therefore pulled from the game because he tested positive for COVID.
I mean, he tested positive for crazy a long time ago. But yeah, testing positive for the old...
Yeah.
For the vid.
Yeah, that's true.
What can you do? Do you have anything else while I have you here?
I have nothing further, Your Honour.
We don't use terms like that around here. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I don't have anything else because, you know, that's how I roll. I would say good luck to you in your fantasy game this week, but you know, what are we playing for now? It's going to be the 2020 Jets.
Not even Pride. Not even Pride.
What I will say is, tune in next week.
Just playing to say that we played.
Just say we were there. Tune in next week to see if I was lying about whether there's going to be a guest or not. Could be. Could be full of lies. Lies. Right, thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Thank you, goodbye. So there we go, what do you think to that? Another one done, another week gone, another week of the season gone, which does mean that we are drawing to the back end of the season, the twilight of the season. Yeah. YouTube watchers, do subscribe, and if you're not a YouTube fan, you know, there's always iTunes and SoundCloud, but everybody can visit thecookiecast.com and check us out there, and drop us a line, either social media or email, your choice. Let us know how you're getting on. So that's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye.